If you're putting highly processed stuff into your body, it's like putting diesel fuel into a gas engine. It will run, but is it optimal? You have to start with you first because you can't change other people. It's hard because you decide it's hard.
Dad, look at all these people around us. They've all invested in their financial future, but almost none of them are investing in a body that will get them there. Guys, welcome back to the Dr. Moe Show. I've got Charissa Halonen here today, and we are going to talk about how she shifted and how that relates to her life before and after the shift. So tell me all about where you are, where you came from, and kind of how your days run now.
Oh, well, it's been a roller coaster. Where I am now is an empowerment coach, helping people use fitness, nutrition to shift their mindsets and their limiting beliefs to build their best life from the inside out. Where I started was from a small town in northern Alberta, and I went the journey of a couple of years in psychology and then into a massage therapy career that I did for 17 years. Took me around the world traveling and establishing my own practice. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21. So for the last 17, almost 18 years, I've been running my own companies and helping people hands-on get back into their bodies, heal their health, and really just feel moments of joy and good.
So as a massage therapist, did you work with a certain group of athletes, a certain sport? Where did you fall into that mix? I know a lot of professional triathletes that we spend a lot of time with, and they often travel with their own either physio or massage therapists.
So I was in clinical practice, so I worked with the general public. I loved working more with anybody that had injuries or ailments compared to doing spa massage. There was brief periods of time when I lived abroad that I worked with amateur Aussie rules football team. I was there on staff, first aider and massage therapist. I worked with little rugby teams and just kind of wherever I could introduce myself into the situation to help people feel better in their bodies.
So I definitely agree with health as the foundation of happiness, of life, of fulfillment. For sure. And the thought of, one of my coaches actually says, if you've got your health, you've got 99 problems. If you don't, you've got one. So tell me your thoughts on that.
It's true. If you don't have your health in your body, it impacts how your mind functions. It impacts how you show up in your relationship with yourself, with your business, with your partners, your family. If you don't have that, that's that underlying thing that's pulling at any success that you're creating, because you're risking your longevity in your careers, your life quality, and just your general mood. Like how you feel in a day really comes down to how your body's doing. You cannot avoid necessarily getting injuries or sicknesses or all those outlying factors, but you can have intention behind how you treat yourself every day in terms of your health to create that most positive scenario to be happening, because that aspect is within your control.
That's perfect. Yeah. Because, when you wake up not feeling well, it hinders your days. And even on its most extreme end, it limits your days, because if we don't invest early enough in our health, it limits our days with our family.
100%.
It's kind of horrifying. When I think of, family members I've lost, or how I would love to spend a couple more days even with them, that if they had made different choices, or if I could have helped them make different choices, of course, because I want to control the universe. So there's that. What would you say is the most important aspect? So if both of our listeners say, well, I don't know, there's so many things to consider. What do I do first? Where do I start? What would you tell them?
Start with you. You have to start with you first, because you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. So what are you putting into your body to fuel your body? First and foremost, that is the energy that everything derives from. So if you're putting a whole lot of highly processed stuff into your body, it's like putting diesel fuel into a gas engine. It will run. Our body is incredible in the sense of, given the most extreme circumstances, it will still function. But the question is it optimal? And most of the times we're running very suboptimally because we, for one reason or another, are choosing easy versus a little bit more time consuming. It's easy to grab a bag of chips. It's a bit more time consuming to cut up some veggies, cut up some apples, and sit and eat them. So really being choosy about what are you actually putting in your body, and is it functional fuel or is it comfort?
That coming from a long career overnight in emergency medicine, I'll tell you right now at 3 a.m, apples are not going to do the Dorito trick.
No.
But on the flip side, and I struggle with very deep food grooves, pathologic eating pattern food grooves in my brain. So that is a very intentional effort for me to overcome. We are not perfect. We are working on it. But when I think about that, something you said that, it takes more time, but you didn't just talk about food preparation. You talked about and sitting down and eating it, because it's not as calorically dense. So those nutrients, all those macro and micronutrients, hydration that comes within the food takes longer to ingest. So it actually forces you to intentionally sit. And we don't want to do that. We're busy.
By design. Right?
Yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice. Yes. And it is hard to make that choice in the moment. It's very hard to make that choice in the moment. But the more moments you can string together where you make that good choice, that's when you win.
I feel like it's hard because you decide it's hard. Right? If somebody has decided that it's hard to eat that way.
Thank you for calling me on it.
Okay, a mindset coach over here. So what you decide and what you think is what you create. You have to eat either way, but you can make it easier. You can buy stuff that's pre-prepped, or you can work on how do I feel when I eat this versus how do I feel when I eat the bag of Doritos. If you're conscious that way, you're going to make an easier choice because it's like, okay, this one makes me feel better overall. So that's what I'm going to remember when I'm stuck between Apple or Doritos. What is going to pay into the bank account that I'm working towards? The one that, eats away at me because I eat the Doritos, quick, easy on the fly, but then I beat myself up mentally because it's like, well, there you go. You fell into that trap, and it has so much karmic, emotional shrapnel to it. Versus I eat my apple. Yeah, it took a few more minutes longer. I feel good. And then there's no shrapnel that's happening because the effort required erases everything else. So it's actually harder to eat the poor way because there's higher cost, not only physically, but emotionally as well.
And then every ounce of emotion you are putting into that bucket of self-berating or oh, I wish I would have, or it's really hard for me. So yes, thank you for calling me out on that. I appreciate it more than you know.
You have a physiological response though, too.
Thoughts are
then
things.
It's like,
thoughts have
exactly.
Energy.
You all of a sudden kick yourself into cortisone and your adrenaline spikes because now you're in a fight or flight because you're fighting with yourself. So there's actually layers to this that the average person really doesn't understand, but I know you understand because you're in this field. You understand physiology. There is a higher cost always to that easier realm.
So stack the deck in your favor.
Yeah.
Make it harder to attain the hard thing, because the hard thing is having a year less with your child, having a year less with your dad, having a year less of productivity at work. My husband and I were on vacation not too long ago, literally a vacation. We took 3 days to do nothing. We sat on the beach and we would walk over to breakfast and then we would read books on the porch.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we did for 3 days. We actually took a vacation. It's not just traveling. This was really nothing. And we were sitting in this very large hot tub they had on the beach, which was pretty cool must say so myself. And he actually said, look at all these people around us, because it was a bunch of older people. And if you can't see the air quotes on the audio version, I am the older person at this point. So it makes me chuckle when I say that. But it was a bunch of what I would consider late in their career types. And my husband looked and he said, look at them. They've all invested in their financial future, but almost none of them are investing in a body that will get them there. We watch them walking around with their Mai Tais and their fried shrimp and all the things, right? And the energy from that food that goes in, what are you building with? Are you building with charred old wood, or are you building with fresh green wood, like fresh, energetically fortified food? And the answer is usually the former, at least in the US.
Canada's the same.
I think we're all the same at this point.
Except for Europe. Europe's a little better.
They are a little bit better. They are, because they're going to eat fresher food that hasn't, when I was in the emergency department on the ground regularly, like, you don't have time to, counsel people on lengthy nutrition information. In my super fast discussion with patients, listen, I need you to eat closer to the ground. And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, when you eat a blueberry, it still looks like a blueberry, what could have been picked off of a bush. When you eat a potato chip, that is a years old potato that hasn't seen the sun in literally years. So the last time whatever you're eating saw the sun, that's as close as you can get. And that was always my 30-second how to help a patient with nutrition. It was so silly sometimes because I knew they couldn't hear it, but I was hoping a little part of them heard it.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to, like you said, it has to be a choice. We know what to eat. We know broccoli's healthier than brownies, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer. So why doesn't everybody do it?
Because we're not educated in the way that we need to be, right? It's like in the 50s, you wouldn't really have this because there was more from the farm, local stuff, all of that. When life got faster paced and more convenient, we started losing that old tradition of eating farm to table, right? And it's just gradually gotten more convenient from there. There's things out there that they're designing our food to be something that it makes it that harder choice to not eat a brownie versus a piece of broccoli by design. So when you're going against the grain to eat whole food, which is a diet nowadays, right, which actually it's just food.
It's just food.
It's just food, but anybody who sits there and eats just food gets such a strange look from everybody else. Because it can't be that simple, but it is. It's just we're choosing either direction. There's just not enough information for people on the long end of making that easier, more convenient choice to understand the consequences of their actions until it is too late. Now that's shifting, but we have this generation where they don't see the outcome of it because it's only been a short-term study. Really now compared to what it was. In my generation, Lunchables used to be a fancy thing that we would trade my sandwich for a Lunchables because we couldn't afford the Lunchables.
Right. But that was the luxury.
Yeah, but now it's the opposite. Everybody has Lunchables. And when I send my kids to school with a steak and potatoes cut up, people are like, oh, that's weird, but I want that.
Yeah, that's interesting because people always ask myself, our son goes to a private school, so we have the chance to buy the food, which is actually created in their little cafe, which is super amazingly good food, which is awesome. It's not typical school lunch. And people ask me, why don't you pack your kid's lunch? And I'm like, because I'm not going to pack him anything that's better than that. What I pack him will be prepackaged, not because I'm not able to pack a diverse amount of food, but the way we've trained ourselves to this point in our house is quick grab and go food is processed. Even knowing better. And I wish I would have raised our child differently. We would have raised our child ourselves. Let me be honest. I wish we would have raised ourselves differently and re-raised ourselves. So currently we're kind of undergoing a shift in our house with a second best time to plant a tree.
Yeah. It's worth it. We did that. I'm 3 years a stepmom. So when I got married to my husband, he had the 2 kids and they had lost their mom. So they have us. So that year between when she had passed and when I came into the picture, they lived on processed stuff because it was the convenient thing. Tyler worked out of town and all of that. So when I got here, I'm like, okay, we have emotional eating happening. Feelings are being eaten. We have to fix this. So everybody in the house went on the same whole food, animal-based plan. And man, that was a fight. Those kids were addicted to that food. But I will tell you what, today, 3 years later, the oldest is 15. And he's like, thank you for not letting me stay that fat kid. right? Because he was like, wasn't that correlation. So now we teach them about healthy food. We teach them how to build a proper plate. We teach them about fullness levels, when to stop eating. And like they graze throughout the whole day on they're allowed to eat as much as they want because they know their fullness cues. They know what's available, and we don't have that. We've just designed it to make it easier. Like I make a whole bunch of hard-boiled eggs, and there's like our own cow that we get butchered, and beef jerky and things that are slightly processed but better for them that they can grab and go. And it's just, we don't keep that stuff in the house so that we don't eat it because we used to, right? So we all shifted, and now we all eat that way. And the boys put up with kind of being teased at school for eating steak and potatoes. I'm like, steak's a pretty terrible thing to have to eat, guys.
Yeah, how awful. I'm so sorry.
Right? But it was when we knew better, we made that shift, right? And so you can make those shifts at any age. It's just, it's a process. You've got to buckle up because there's a lot to it.
And I think it's almost like training our dog, where we're like, wow, we realized lately that we made some mistakes in training our dog, and we had to go back, retrain the dog, I mean, let's be honest, it's not retraining the dog, it's retraining yourself. It all comes from the inside, and it's that intention. And that's the biggest reason that I love having these conversations, because they always get deep. They always get personal.
Yeah.
But because it's the real world, right? I mean, I was an athletic trainer for 26 years. I'm a triathlon coach. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a physician. I got letters up the yin yang. Fine. But when it comes down to choosing a meal versus fighting with my family, not even fighting, right? It's just changing the direction of the boat. It's the shift. How much effort do I want to put in versus how much I have left at the end of the day? And how do you stack the deck in your favor?
Well, look at it in the long run. You don't have to change all of this today, but in the long run, making that shift of 180 degrees of your boat is going to give longevity, more time with your kid, more time with your partner, and better things for their life, right? Sometimes if we can't make it for us, we have to make it that bigger picture. So my 15-year-old and my 12-year-old are 15 years ahead of where I was when I started making these shifts. So I'm like, now the rest of their life and what they're going to pass on to their children is going to create a better impact. So as much as it is, yes, taxing and less, like more to do at the end of the day when you have less in the tank, even if you just steer the course that little bit every day, just a little bit, so you're holding that standard and you're not letting it slide back, that eventually, like it took us 6 months for this to be something that there wasn't a fight every day, to like that they weren't getting processed food. They still ate everything they love in a day. There's not one thing that they have to eat that they don't love. They just don't get to have frickin' processed bread and processed pasta. But it took a long time for them to actually get on board and understand. But we just kept holding the line and like gradually pushing it a little bit more and pushing it till we found a baseline and we're like, okay, we can navigate from here. But now in the long term, I know that their fertility probably not going to be challenged the same way it would have been if we would have kept going the same way. Their overall health, their ability to navigate a healthy lifestyle, all of those things are things that I'm not going to have to question because they're demonstrating at 12 and 15 things that I have just recently learned in the last 2 years. So I'm like, that's my why as to why I keep working on this and why I went through like a very crazy time of like taking kids who were addicted to food through cold turkey. Yeah. It was not fun.
Oh, no. But something you said really hit me. Number one, holding a standard. If you don't have that standard for yourself, you have absolutely no right imposing it on your child or anyone else, right?
Correct.
I mean, really, we're talking about children in this case specifically because I'm not going to tell my husband what to eat. You can be an example. But again, a united front often works exponentially better.
Yes.
And it's not like people want to feel like crap. But the second thing that you said is you shifted the baseline. So every time it moves a degree, right? Like if I was flying up to visit you, it's not a straight line. We move a couple degrees and then we move a couple degrees. Oh, hold on. We're off track again. Hold on. We steer that ship. We steer that boat. I'm not taking a boat to go to Alberta, just so we're clear. However, really long trip. So, but when you think about it, that actually was pretty reassuring because so many of my patients and my clients, my coaching clients, and even my physician coaching clients, because we've spent so many years in survival mode, I mean, with cortisol levels through the roof, that even trying to minimize those, trying to get people to even get a good night's sleep, they're like, I can't. I'm like, can you give me 30 minutes? Can you give me 30 extra minutes? Because again, although you're a mindset coach, you get it. It is your physical embodiment of yourself. It's a system. You're never going to get out of that. You cannot escape that fact.
No, it's literally all interconnected. And the minute you try and separate them, you create like internal chaos because we're not, okay, take part A out, put over here, and part B goes here, and part C is over here. It doesn't work. It's all integrated. Your emotions, your physical, and your mental are all succinctly coordinated. And if one is out, everything else is off.
Yeah, we talk about pillars a lot in my practice and, trying to uphold, it's nutrition, sleep. It's protein forward nutrition, resistance to exercise, electrolytes with your hydration, sleep and stress. And I kind of always breeze right by when I'm talking about the sleep and stress because it's the one that nobody wants to talk about because I don't know how to get rid of my stress. I have to go to work. I'm like, well, no, it's not just work. It's how you think about work.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's putting energetically high foods in your body. Taking a moment to breathe. I don't need a meditation room in the hospital. I need 3 seconds in the bathroom. And that was always my joke on the wellness committee because we had these big, huge goals. I'm like, don't just let people get some food during their shift. That's all. Just for a second.
Yeah. Make it micro because then it's attainable.
Yes. Because, we would build these, this meditation room. I'm like, I don't know where it is in the hospital because I can't get there. I can't get there on a shift. So it doesn't matter that it's there.
And also, what do you need in the moment today? Because what was needed yesterday is not the same as what's needed today. So having that micro, I can stop for 2 minutes uninterrupted. What do I need? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to cry? Do I need to shove some food in my mouth? What do I need right now to be okay and get through?
And that's, if any of my emergency physician colleagues are listening, this is what I need them to know is that, number one, it's okay to cry in the bathroom. I got to the point at the end of my career where I didn't cry in the bathroom. I just would cry out in the open because they all knew that if I lost a patient or if I had a tough situation, I was going to cry. This is reality. And this is where I am. I have mascara that would last through 2 good cries on a shift. So I planned for it, but they knew because it's what do you need in the moment? And I think that's amazing. And it's tough in a job, but a lot of jobs. I say with physicians because that's what I'm closest to. But in so many jobs, we're not allowed to even take a moment because that shows weakness. I think the opposite.
It's true. And a physiological response to crying is your cortisol levels drop because the stress is allowed to leave the body, right? It's like that steam coming out of the kettle. It's actually the thing that's going to allow that stress to level out a little bit as a cry. It's your nervous system realizing that it's safe to do so because you're not going to cry and run away from a bear at the same time. It doesn't happen. You might cry after, but when you're in that immediate fight or flight, there are no tears happening. So when that release does happen, you are in that nervous system that's going to allow you to process the things that you have experienced and to be able to be okay for the very next thing that's going on. It needs that moment. And it's in every situation because we're human beings and everyone has feelings. Whether you're a banker, whether you're a massage therapist, an ER doctor, a coach, whatever it is, you will experience a full spectrum of life every day. So, of course, there's going to be full spectrum emotions that also might happen.
And from an administrative point of view, in a hospital point of view, it needs to be, my opinion, of course, it needs to be okay that people do have those emotions and are allowed to process them, even if it means they see one less patient a shift. I think that's critical.
It will create less HR issues if the establishment would allow those people to have their feelings in that moment because they'll pass through them. Otherwise, they get stored in your body and they're that freeze, the flight, the fauna, any of those things, if you don't work through your emotions, because emotions have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if that end doesn't happen because it's not worked through, then that holds on and that creates tension and it creates BS that happens because now I'm snippy at my colleague or I made a bad call. I misdiagnosed something because I misheard something because I'm not fully where I am because I haven't processed losing that patient just before this. HR would be way more happy if you could just have like a second to just regroup yourself and then carry on compared to all the other negative dominoes that come from not allowing space to experience life.
That is so powerful. So powerful. I feel like we live in a world that we're not allowed to, let me rephrase, that we don't choose to take a stand and be human. So before we end in a few minutes, I want to touch on something that you said in the very beginning, that you have been an entrepreneur since 21 years old. I want to know, obviously not everyone, it's anywhere between 3 and 5% of the population that chases their own dreams, that are owners, not workers, owners, not employees. And thank goodness, right? Because otherwise we would have no companies and we would have no help. Everyone has to have their role for sure. But when we're all steering the boat in the same direction, that's when the magic happens. And when you were 21, what made you think, I don't want to go the traditional route. I need to do this for me?
Well, there's two things. I really don't like being told what to do. I'm a middle kid, right? But also I'm a trailblazer. I look at things in such a different way compared to mainstream. So I always never really felt like I fit. Right. And to be fair, I started programming my dad's calculators for his gas company when I was 14 while I was babysitting. So I'm pretty sure I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, double dipping, making $130 an hour in like 1997. Pretty good.
Nice.
But again, I see the world so differently. So I was always a good employee, but I always wanted to do more. So I outworked myself out of a position and always left a hole when I left because I always saw things to do. So I'm like, I'm meant to be leading and helping others by giving them a place for their dreams to come true. But I've truly feel like a trailblazer, and my life reflects that from all the ways I've worked across the world, worked in random countries, and just, showed up in a country, didn't have a place to live, didn't have a job, didn't know anybody, and then made my way and created change from there.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So if somebody wanted to work with you on mindset, how would they do that? Do you work with companies? Do you work with individuals?
Right now we're working with individuals, so it's like we would work with companies too. Right now it's mainly focused on individuals. So it's my husband and I that do the coaching together. We give macros based off of your goals, training programs based off of your goals, and then do the mindset coaching. There's group coaching and there's one-on-one coaching. And we're most active on our Instagram page, the.relentless.couple. And for your listeners, I have a free habit tracker download. So if they write Dr. Moe, then I will happily share that with them for free. And if you send us a message, we're happy to answer anything that comes through. If you want to know more, or if you're not sure if the program is right for you, it's myself or Tyler that would be answering back to you. No bots, just us.
You're right. I feel the same. Like, no, we're human out here.
Yeah.
We are all too human out here. Oh, I think that's amazing. So thank you very much for giving the listeners a free gift. And I'm so glad to hear that you are still primarily working with individuals. I too think that building from the ground up is my calling rather than top down. I think we need space for both. But I think that, the best place, like you said, the best place to start is with you.
Yeah. It's a place that you can control. So knowing that you can control it, then you can actually start creating actionable change in your life and then for those around you. So why not start with you?
Right. Why not you? I love that.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And to the listeners, don't forget, go follow Charissa, send a DM, have it say Dr. Moe so you can get the free habit tracker. And we will see you next time.
Thanks so much for everything.